Oh, pop it.
Good afternoon, councillors. Time is 2 o'clock and I declare the meeting open. This meeting will be live streamed via Zoom, webinar facilities, and recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused or retransmitted without the prior written consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on council's website. The persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people and respects the history and culture of elders both past and present. We have a request for a leave of absence for Councillor McKechnie. Move second, Councillor Tucker, Councillor Braden. All those in favour? And Councillor McKibben has just entered the room.
1 minute.
That's fine. Are there any declarations of interest?
I'm a member of Black Springs Community Association and contributing school reports. And a delegate, I don't know whether
Are you a member of the committee?
Sorry?
Are you a member of the committee? Only conflict when you're a member of the committee.
Mr. Mayor, in this part of the thing, my daughter's made a submission for the hockey. I'll declare an interest only in that hockey one.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. I also, my husband's put one in, but I have nothing to do with the organisation that that's applied for.
That's the land manager. Right. I'll leave the individual councillors to make the exit with the time when those items come up. All right, confirmation of minutes, item 4.1, attach the minutes of the meeting, which was the last meeting was the 26th of April 2023, and those minutes were accepted by council and the actions endorsed at the ordinary meeting on the 16th of May 2023. The recommendation is that the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 26th of April 2023 be noted. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillors, anyone wish to speak to this? Put motion. All in favour? Passed. Reports of decision. Item 5.1, notice of motion. Reallocation of rail crossing funds, and the motion is that council use money set aside for rail crossings to complete the path from Curtis Street to the linked path near the proposed garden in the Oberon Common. Councillor McCarthy?
I'll move it.
I'll second the conversation.
Councillor McCarthy.
As we've seen, Mr. Mayor, there was over 100 and something thousand on the allocated rail crossing thing, and it's completed. And the top next to the side, so any earthworks in the future when we finish the Tablelands Way shouldn't come up against that. As outlined in the report, the crossings along Albion Street, Losemount Road, all of them have been upgraded recently. And this is an action, this path down there that needs funding and needs to be done this financial year. There's other funds out there, but as we've been told, we can't hold them over and use them as slush funds. So I put this forward to see if we can get this job completed down the common, and I think other than that, it's only the Aboriginal garden that'd be outstanding then. So thank you.
Councillor Hayden.
There nothing further.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it was before my time, but I was puzzled at the time as to why the money came from the TI fund when there was money sitting and available in the reserve. I'm not even sure if those crossings are inside the TI area. I assume they were, but I just thought that was an inappropriate source when there was another obvious one, so I support the motion.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I thought that we had a general discussion about the unused town improvement funds, and I know this is rail crossing, so it's separate from the TI fund, isn't it? And I note the general manager's note at the bottom, which I read the other day. When is it? This is money that's already in there and has been there for some time, as I recall from our finance meeting, other meeting. And I think Councillor McCarthy's notice of motion is to try and spend it in, from what I understood, 23-24, not waiting till 24-25. Is that correct? So, when was the general manager considering we should look at this? I was a bit not quite sure from the note at the bottom. I know, so this was basically pushing it into our IPNR, which would be for using this money in 24-25, as I understand, not this year.
So through the chair, that's what an option could have been for council because of the significant amount of unallocated. So it's not only allocated, it's for that purpose within the common, but is yet to have defined purpose attached to it. So we were saying that if council were to, they could also consider this option as another pathway.
But this rail crossings money is separate to the TI fund, and usually to date or up to the end of this financial year, we normally fund the common from the TI fund. So it would be bringing money external to the TI fund in to be used on the common, as I understand it. Am I wrong?
So through the chair, this money is currently sitting in your internal reserves.
Yes, that's right.
Which is outside the
TI
fund.
Yeah.
I'm not sure around the rail crossings being funded from TI.
No, I don't think that. That's what I'm saying.
However, I'm more than happy to take that on notice and have a look at it. The issue is that there is a rail crossings fund in the internally restricted reserves that has a sum of money in it for rail crossings. Now, we have spent a significant amount on the Rosemount and the Albion Street one, but it is not in the TI. And the notice of motion, as I understand it, is to close an internal fund in one respect and bring it into the common fund to complete the project.
So when we met recently, I think there was a general discussion as to what the unused monies in the TI fund should be used for. And we came up with a list of projects, and I can't remember how much money was in there. Someone will remind me. I think it wasn't 236,000. It was more than that, I think, wasn't it? If I could ask through you, Mr. Chairman, as Director of Corporate Services and Finance.
This is,
I think it was 400.
yeah, there's a significant amount
400
sitting within the common that's not committed to a project.
460. Was it 460?
In total, yeah, across the entire TI, it's about that number.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and there's still a reasonable amount in the common for these types of projects.
And we looked at a number of potential projects, and I think we might actually be written somewhere in our papers tonight. I didn't see it. And I'm just wondering if there was facility for this path, which I'm not saying is a bad idea, to be funded from those funds. Should we be looking at this rail crossings money to be used for another purpose? Because if there's 460,000 in the TI fund, would it be better to come out of that and be able to divert this rail crossings money into something that may not fit squarely within the TI fund? That's my question. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, Clyde.
We,
Sorry, yeah. I'm happy to for the councillor.
I do recall we allocated some of the allocated, unallocated TI to 80,000 to part of that, footpath, because I was the seconder to that motion.
Yeah, through the chair, the working party committed any unspent funds out of the rotunda and the 75,000 allocation that was made to the TI fund in the 23-24 financial year to start the work on completing that project. As Councillor McCarthy's indicated, he'd like to see that path completed, and he's looking for a source to have that completed. But yeah, it wasn't 80,000, it was a component of the projects, and the rotunda was one of them. The Rose Garden was another one from memory, and I think that it was around the 10 to 15,000, if I'm, so it wouldn't have got anywhere near completion of that project. And we haven't commenced that project at this point in time, and as Councillor McCarthy's put in his notice of motion, that's what he's looking to do.
Mr. Chair, I'm not opposed to it.
Hang on.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to have a second bite or not. And just to clarify, my understanding is that the point of Councillor McCarthy's motion, and he can correct me if I've got this wrong, and to answer Councillor McGibbon's question, is that it was TI funding used for something that is dubious as to whether it really fitted into TI, and this motion is a means of reimbursing the TI fund. So,
No, I don't think the TI fund has ever been used for rail crossings.
No.
I think if I'm wrong, because Chris's comments, sorry, if I may, Chris's comments were, and I thought it was 80-something thousand on Albion Street and a little bit more on Bladesmount Road. He said that's the only fund he had to take the crossings out of. Well, we should have checked, shouldn't we?
Through the chair, I can't comment to say that's what he said or not. What I'd say is there is an internal reserve for railway crossings that currently exists. So if he made that comment, it was flawed.
And through the chair, if any works he was doing on railway crossings would need to come from that internal reserve. That's why council at the time would probably set it up.
Councillor Trimbath?
Do we know how much this path would cost that we're proposing here?
Through the chair, we'd have an idea about what a square metre rate of path is.
Approximately?
I haven't, it'd be probably unwise of me to make a summation on the cost. The other thing is, of course, is that it needs to be disabled, like compliant, accessibility compliant, so we may have to put some bits and pieces in it to make sure that you can access it
Second
appropriately.
Then wouldn't it be a good idea for us to at least determine what this is going to cost before we decide to take money from somewhere where we don't even know how much something's going to cost? Just saying.
Jane? Last one, Councillor? Councillor McKibben?
I'm proposing an amendment, Mr. Mayor. The amendment would be council investigate the source of the rail crossings fund and whether it had any relationship to money being funded from the town improvement fund. That's one. Two, council investigate the cost of constructing the path from Curtis Street to the proposed garden in the Oberon Common and report back to the May 24 meeting if that is possible. And also whether, a third, council advise whether it has available resources to complete this project in 23-24. Anything else?
No. Just waiting for the proposed amendment to be come up on the screens.
Mr Chairman, it can obviously say council advised, then ABC or dot, dot, dot. ABC is usually better because then you've got 1, 2, 3, because you're going to set the.
That's quite quick.
Yeah, but we've got to complete it this year.
Through the chair, can I ask why it needs to be concluded this year?
I suppose it doesn't, it was only the intent of, I thought from what Councillor McCarthy was saying originally, but, I'll remove the third one, say council to advise, as to when available resources will be available, when the resources will be available to complete this project. Is that better? Either internally or via contractors.
We understand.
If I could, can I ask, through you, Mr Chairman, whether it's possible to have that report to the May meeting, or is it too early?
It's at best 3 weeks away.
That's why I'm not asking.
I don't think the investigation would take too long, and as such, I think that the quicker we bring this back, the better, if that was the case.
I mean, I'd assume it's we've got a square thing, what the distance is, multiply, and you get it pretty quick.
All right, are you happy with that as covering the intent of your proposal?
Yes, if, I'm assuming 2 will cover both cost and resources. If you're, oh no, well, if we could have a 3 and the General Manager to report on the available resources to undertake this project. This proposed project, sorry.
Okay,
I'm happy with that.
happy with that? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Trembath?
I think I think it speaks for itself after the discussion we've had. Mr Mayor?
Anyone else wish to speak to the proposed, the amendment?
Is the seconder want to speak?
No.
Just one point of clarification, if I may, Mr Mayor, where it says investigate the source of the rail crossing funds. I think that means the funds that we used for construction of the rail crossings, not the source of the funds that are currently in the reserve.
We put constructed rail crossing.
Investigate the source of the funds which were used for construction of the rail crossings.
It's not actually correct, right?
Well, it's the source of the funds that are in that fund, I suppose, but
It's what's
Yeah,
still
but that's
there.
different from.
Well, it's actually, I think it's a source of the funds that we use for constructing
That's right.
rail crossings. So if we go, council investigate the source of the,
Of the funds which were used for construction of the rail crossings.
I'll just say funds used.
do we need to know the source of the funds that are actually in that reserve as well?
We provide that as part of the.
All right, you're right. Okay, I'm happy with that
Happy with
change.
that, mover and seconder, happy with that?
Yes.
Anyone else wish to speak to this, for or against? Councillor McCarthy?
It's, Mr Mayor, I think the Common Working Party identified this path to be 2 metres wide. It's one of the things. I didn't do any due diligence on getting any costings in respect to, you're gonna go 100 mil deep with the path, or you're gonna go 150, soon there's ability to drive trucks over it, so I didn't get involved in any, I'm saying, but if the rail crossing money had been used to the rail crossing, then the money had been expired.
Well,
Yeah.
if it was only,
Well, I'm quite sure that when we're here, and the hot mix was one of the concerns, and Chris done both of them pretty well, one after the other. He said the TI fund was the only source he could pull the money from.
okay, if you did it without,
No, we agreed to it. Council agreed to it, he didn't do it underhanded. we voted
Through the chair, there's no suggestion it was underhanded.
it. But, you know, and Chris was quite open, he said, that's the only source of revenue I had to pull the money from.
Anyway, we have this amendment
Anyway,
before us. I have moved and seconded. Anyone else wish to speak for or against?
And if I may, just with the Andrew's thing, I'd like to see this project completed this financial year because these just drifting out, and now's the time to do it before the end of July, end of June. The weather's with us. After you get past that, you get into a situation where the weather's against us.
All right, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Everyone except for Councillor McCarthy, so the amendment becomes the motion. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 5.2, 2024-25 Integrated Planning and Reporting. And the recommendations are that Council place the draft 22-26 delivery program, which has been updated with financial data for the 2024-25 to 25-26 financial years, in accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993, on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days and seek community feedback during the exhibition period. Recommendation Part 2, place the draft 2024-25 operational plan and long-term financial plan and resolve to publicly exhibit the plans for a minimum of 28 days in accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993. Submissions received during the public exhibition period will be considered and presented to the June Ordinary Council meeting prior to final adoption. Item 3, place the draft statement of revenue policy on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days, noting the document includes the 24-25 fees and charges and rating structure in accordance with Chapter 15, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1993. Part 4, include its ongoing support for a reseal program in lieu of a 1 to 2 kilometre sealed road program. Part 5, endorses the proposed communications and consultation strategy. And Part 6, delegates the General Manager authorisation to make any necessary editorial and content changes to the integrated planning and reporting documentation for public exhibition in order to give the effect to council resolutions. That's a 6-part resolution. I was going to break it down a little bit, but not entirely, and that is, I think 1, 2 and 3 are the 3 major parts worthwhile doing individually so that we can talk to those particular documents, and the other 4, 5 and 6 we'll take as a whole. Happy with that? All right, can I have a move and a seconder for item 1, please? Councillor McKibben. Councillor Tucker. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note the comments provided by the General Manager, some comments that in response to comments I have made in respect to some of those documents, delivery program. So on that basis, I'm happy to move this recommendation.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, there's procedural things which have to happen, so I have to second it. I do have a number of comments and questions. Is it best to do them now, or
the reason I've broken them down this way is because then we can talk to each part for those who wish to make a point or provide information to
so I don't have to ask my questions now to have a say on numbers.
No, you can ask your questions now, but if it's better put in writing as part of the submission period.
Oh, no, just some questions about what is going
May I ask those
into
questions?
Okay, thank you. Some of them are just some passing comments. Obviously, my interest has always been in roads. I've had a look at the maintenance and the reseals money.
And what are you speaking to? The delivery program?
We're dealing with
the operational plan. And
we're doing delivery program.
Sorry, my mistake. No, I had no comments on number 1, the delivery program.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Anyone else wants to speak about the delivery plan? Councillor Hayden?
Is the delivery plan including the residential water charges and all of the other stuff, I thought it would have been easier to speak to it as a recommendation in a whole, because I think we're all gonna have this same issue because we've got so much about the whole thing at once.
Well, that's why I broke it down, so we can speak to each part.
So through the chair, just in terms of context, the delivery program is our 4-year strategic plan that we look at. As part of the Office of Local Government's requirements, if you make fundamental changes to that document, you need to put it on exhibition and do it. So we've indicated that apart from the strategic document that we delivered in 2022, we make some fundamental financial changes to that to link the delivery program, which is a 4-year strategic, to the operational plan in draft form. So all we're saying in this first recommendation is we note that there's financial changes we've made, and you acknowledge that and you put it on exhibition. It doesn't approve the delivery plan, it just puts it on exhibition because that will be done in June, after which you've had all this consultation and process you go in. So the first one is purely to just put that document on exhibition.
So that document being the community strategic plan, is that what you're stating? Which particular one? Because you've placed some at the back and some at the front. It would have been easier if it was under the first one or wherever, because I have a heap of questions.
Through the chair,
Give me a page and I'll let you know.
so it is page 47 of 150, which says Oberon Council Delivery Program 22 to 26. And that goes from page 50,
Yep, so
page
I do
47.
have questions on that one.
47 to... From 47 until 82.
Well, I have some questions around page 48 and 49, if that's okay. So we've got in here where it states the 23-26 delivery program, and it states here about council's total capital works proposed budget for 22-23. So if it's a 24-25, why have we got 22 and 23 listed there and referring to 19.5 million? And then we've got under here paths, cycleways and roads. Then on page 49, where this was a previous council's paragraph where it says open space, sport and recreation facilities, provide improved facilities for the skate park, fitness centre, swimming pool, new playgrounds at Barraga and Black Springs, shade covers in open space areas across the LGA, new barbecue facilities along the Fish River and Grandstand. That's all done in a previous term, so shouldn't this be updated to reflect now and not the previous term way back then?
So through the chair, the document has been asked to put the exhibition on with financial changes only. Any material changes that we make, we'll make during the exhibition phase and update it in line with what council resolved to do during the 24-25.
Okay, so question to that is if we put this on exhibition for 28 days regarding the financial side and then make changes to all the words and all the input from the general manager, etc., wouldn't we then have to put that on public exhibition for 28 days as well to acknowledge any changes so that the public could see that?
The document talks about financial changes that they make, and we would just do that as an administration update as part of this document during the exhibition phase.
Doesn't work my head now.
The delivery, part of the delivery plan is 4 years.
Yeah, it is, it's for you, but I know the change,
But we've
the
already
general
done this
manager does it.
previously again, but previously I also said how come it's not updated to reflect what's in the current years? And that was it last year or the year before when I said, how come we're referring to 2019 and whatever, that the past council did these things? I questioned that then as well. And it's still here again as well, without any wording changed.
Through the chair, this document is prepared in 22, so I don't know where the 19 documents is, but I'm more than happy to go through that and have a look and make those changes accordingly.
Okay. Any other questions on that particular document, Councillor?
No, not that one.
Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for your indulgence for a second go. I was assuming from the General Manager's email that basically it was only financial issues, so I haven't pushed with the things that I thought were out of date because of the comment on the General Manager, but if he's going to update for Councillor Hayden, is he going to do it for everything or just for Councillor Hayden?
I don't know, through the chair, any material changes that council want to make as part of the document, as it is, they can make. They don't have to go through the exhibition phase. The financial components of your document that may change the avenue or the process of how you need to be exhibited. So in this instance, as part of the draft, we put up numbers that say, if you want to implement this OP as it is now, it's going to have financial implications on your delivery program, so we acknowledge that. If there's material changes, what we will do is say we've made material changes or immaterial changes relating to here and here. It's hard for me to put what we're going to do during next year when you haven't resolved to do what you're going to do next year at this point in time.
That's right. So for instance, if whatever happens, say if we've got an issue with the weeds budget, that will have an implication on everything going forward because, as you know, it's the situation. So
we will acknowledge it so our community is aware of the direction the council takes.
And on the waste, for instance, increasing some of our waste charges.
We will acknowledge it. So the waste charges, once again, we'll talk about in the OP.
Yes.
But if I would like to start the conversation in this about the changing face of waste.
Yes.
So it will be an update. However,
so we're going to
equally, we're going through a comprehensive change to our documents when a new council is presented, and that is also the opportunity to look at that. So it's a matter of just when and where do we do it.
But if we, sorry, through Mr Chairman, if we keep pushing it out to the new council while they get on board and everything, no, nothing will get done to June next year. But that's
through the chair. My comments are around introducing that. Do we introduce it now to say that we're going to have a stronger look at how this reflects? We'll go down that path then.
The clunky thing about this whole process of delivery plans is that the delivery plan is a 4-year document, and you've got to retain visibility of that as the financial circumstances are adjusted to make it possible. Do I think it's a great way of doing business? Not particularly, but maintaining the visibility of what the 4-year delivery plan is about is important.
The difference between material changes and immaterial changes is you tell your community from 22 to 26, here's our 4-year plan. If you keep changing it every year, it's not a 4-year plan, it's a 1-year plan, and that's what your operational plan's about.
But
so to have that
again, we've already done this previously.
Yeah, but we're talking about immaterial changes, not material changes.
And so I understand, the waste and the weeds could be two non-minimal changes that will have an impact on the delivery plan, just depending on what council decides.
It's above, well, we still do it.
Yes.
It's just that if council resolves to do more of it, we'll acknowledge that we're resolving to do more of it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Adamant agreement.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak about item 1? For or against? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
I can't vote for that, so.
It's all right, you will vote against. All councillors for, Councillor Hayden, you voting against? Right, the motion is passed. Item 2, place the draft 2024-25 operational plan and long-term financial plan. And resolve to publicly exhibit the plans for a minimum of 28 days in accordance with the Local Government Act 1993. Submissions received during the public exhibition period will be considered and presented to this June ordinary council meeting prior to final adoption. A mover and a seconder. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Tucker. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I raised some comments with the General Manager and they were also responded to by the Director. I was just wondering in this, that we're very, I thought we were quite conservative with respect to our comments in relation to loans for the STP. I think we have more information at the moment than, which may indicate to us that we require further loans for the, or may require loans for the STP, and that we should at least flag that there is potential that we may require further loans for the STP, even if we don't quantify it as a note to the accounts, because I realise that we have to be slightly circumspect, but noting that these documents will probably come out after we have at least determined one or more preferred tenderers.
Through the chair, councillor, as we indicated through the correspondence, we haven't included a loan in the STP in these documents, and that was based on information we had at this time. We definitely understand there's some movement with that project, and we are waiting on a grant outcome, which would drastically change the quantity of that loan. We, based on the outcome of that and what goes on over the next few weeks, that can definitely be reconsidered in the financials, even if it's just a noting it strongly in terms of signalling to the community that this may need to be done. But the evaluation we made at that point in time was we hadn't included it, and I know that this story will change probably over the coming weeks. So it is definitely something we are monitoring and seeing how that may need to work through the exhibition and into the formalising of the plan.
Yes, noting that this has to go on exhibition, though, it will go on exhibition before following this meeting. I just wondered whether we needed to, rather than have to make massive changes in the exhibition period, which may require us to put on exhibition for a further period. I don't know if there's a change of this magnitude. If in 2 weeks' time we determine, let's say 3 weeks' time, within the exhibition period, we suddenly realise we are going to need another loan and we've got a fairly good idea what the quantum is. Do we then have to put that on exhibition for the changes for another 28 days?
Through the chair, the other component of that is that we had looked at the potential for the delivery of this project, and over the short term we would imagine that grant monies, council reserves would be drawn down potentially first. So that loan may not actually fall until future components as well. So that's where we did look at the timing of the loan in a number of scenarios. So
Through the chair, just as part of our conversation with our community, we are proposing to do a video briefing on what that is, and if that's something that council considers highly, we can touch on it during that as well, should council be of a mind to think that that's a good idea.
I think that's good. And I think that the other thing we need to be obviously be aware of, and it's probably more on the revenue policy through this, but it's obviously the changes into those items. We know where there's going to be increases in waste charges, and we need to ensure that that is not only conveyed in videos and presentations, but it's actually somewhere in writing as well. Could I also, Mr. Mayor, also talk about the item 10 of the income statement, page 30, which was the breakdown of other expenses. I note that weeds, we've put 200,000, I'm assuming that's the normal amount plus the roads funding, which I can't remember the breakdown of those two. It was 53,000, I think it was originally 53,130 or something.
It's close to that, yeah.
And I noticed we've put the full amount for the ESL, 502,000, yeah. I'm just wondering, because they're quite significant, whether we actually should leave them as, are we able to put them as line items? Or at least in note 10, do a breakdown?
Yeah.
Either way, just to be a little bit more precise, because they are, I mean, you're looking at quite big numbers there, so.
Through the chair, we can itemise those and put some broader commentary on what drives those other expenses, not an issue.
And I note that the general manager is having a meeting, I think, with the general manager of CTWA tomorrow, is that correct? Or is that-
Through the chair, the general manager of Oberon Council would love to have that meeting, but he's, the general manager of Central Tablelands has cancelled that meeting.
Oh, all right.
We're looking to meet the following week.
All right, okay, thank you. All right, anything else? No, that's all I think I've got at this stage. And there's nothing, and you feel comfortable, General Manager, that we've put nothing about sales of industrial and residential land in this proposal under, we've actually said council has no current plan to dispose of land, plant or equipment. I just had a question about the industrial and residential land that we're looking at developing and selling. Is that a reasonable?
Through the chair, based on the conversations that you're about to have in confidential, I would suspect that may or may not change.
Exactly, that's, yeah, all right, so we're prepared to change that if necessary. Fine, thank you very much. I note with interest though
Thank you.
that.
No, thank you very much. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm in the right part of the meeting to ask my questions in there. Sorry for that. Just first of all, just a couple of passing sort of comments. I had a look at our roads maintenance allocations in sealed local roads, or sealed local and regional. We're up to just short of $1 million. The recommendation from the asset management plan says 1.355 million, so it is certainly a significant improvement in that allocation over the last couple of years. We're still short, but better than where we were, so I wanted to acknowledge that. Same with unsealed roads maintenance. We're only about 100,000 short of the recommended figure for unsealed maintenance, so that's getting very close. But noting that in both cases the recommended figures were 2021, so next time we review those plans, I'm guessing that they'll probably go up by 20% or more. So, similarly with reseals, I had a look at our reseals budget with several funding sources. We're now up to 934,000 for reseals, which is a huge improvement from a couple of years ago where it was effectively zero. So we're still about $500,000 short of what the previous DTS recommended, but still it is good to see a decent reseal program getting underway. And I'm just suggesting that at some point when our new director gets more familiar with our roads and funding, that we have another look at that recommended figure and whether that's still reasonable or too high or too low, and possible funding sources. But I'm certainly not expecting that analysis in the immediate future. There's a lot of learning process to go through first.
Through there, just in response to that, you make some valid points. One of the things that we're looking at is to in fact look at bringing the company who did our original ones back, based purely on some of the things that you've stated. I know I'm talking about Morrison Lowe, come back to do that next stage. Knowing the document as council does, Morrison Lowe made a very significant statement when we did that work, and that was, whilst we acknowledge you spend a lot of money on capital and that has an impact on your maintenance, we don't begrudge council going after all the grant funding that was out there to, in fact, do capital works. As council is now aware, that seems to be substantially levelling itself out, and now could be the optimal time to get that back to say, well, okay, what's today's processes like? I think that's a really good strategic document, and to move forward, I think that's probably something we'll be looking to do probably this financial year as well.
This coming financial year. Yeah, and as you know, that's a strategic discussion I've been trying to get happening for the whole of my time on council, so it will be good to get into that at some stage, assuming I'm still here. Couple of questions. We've had a couple of discussions, one at our workshop a couple of weeks ago, and I've had the same discussion with the General Manager and Director a couple of months ago about having a small amount of money available for urgent survey and design works. Did we end up including something like that?
So it's through the chair, given the current deficit that we provided, we haven't looked at that. It'll be a decision for council to have to make, knowing what's been highlighted in the report. So the answer is no at this point in time.
But I could put in a submission and we could consider that in June.
Through the chair, once the document goes on exhibition, council will have a significant role to play in how they want to see that element of discretion moved, if they want to do that.
Especially since I'm just suggesting quite a small amount that can overcome significant issues when we need to do something.
Through the chair, no staff member is arguing that point. We've just been realistic in how we develop the OP.
At our workshop, we also discussed, we saw a list of the amount of money in all the reserves, and it was stated that we're going to have a look at those and see which ones we can eliminate or need to keep or move money around. Will that happen in June, or what's our plans for having that review?
Through the chair, we're doing it as fast as we possibly can. Our timeline for a few things are coming up quite readily. We would love to address it by June. Unfortunately, on the priority scale, we are aiming for it, but realistically, we may not meet June, but hopefully June or July or August might be practical.
Okay, thank you. And as you know, my particular interest is in the reserve, which is, I think it's called Works Construction or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're going to look into where that money came from to go into that reserve, because that's the one I've got my beady eyes on for my purposes.
It shouldn't be you that has beady eyes, it's the staff that does it.
All right.
You can make suggestions.
So through the chair, what we also want to do is bring back the purpose on which those were reserved for. And I think that's the challenge that we have at the moment. Like, we're looking at legacy funds that may take a while.
My suspicions of where the original source of that reserve may have been, but I might prove to be wrong.
It's your suspicions that you've made known are the ones that we'd probably be tracking first.
Yeah. Thank you. I wanted to comment on the amount we allocate for donations. So what is 90,000 in the current year, it's suggested 80,000 in the coming year. Personally, I still think that is way too high. Somebody said last year that Bathurst makes donations in the order of 20,000 per year, and I think they've got it right and we've got it wrong when we have such trouble meeting our own needs. I would like to see that figure substantially reduced. I'm not moving a motion because I'm not expecting that would get much support, but I just wanted to record my views on donations. But you will see my views when we come to vote on individual applications. And the main one, again, as I've covered several times in the past, is plant replacement. So on page 23 it mentions that the plant replacement schedule has been revamped, and I'm curious to know what revamped means in this situation. What have we done
So through the chair, council endorsed a different way of dealing with plant last year, where they're looking strategically at what and where and when we buy and purchase, noting that these things take a number of years to in fact come to fruition. We're trying to work a little bit more strategic about how we secure these types of plants, especially heavy plant, given the lag time and the lead time. So we're trying to break up that cost for those particular items and spreading it out over a period of time rather than incurring a huge capital expense in one hit. So we did it last year, council will remember, and we're trying to do something similar this year.
So do we have an up-to-date 10-year replacement schedule?
Through the chair, yes, we do. However, we're going to have a look at that in line with the changing face on how we do works as well, and that might be something that Morrison Lowe also assist us with.
And I recognise that even if we have a 10-year schedule, as of today's date, it can change next year and every year during those 10, but I would be interested to see what the current schedule is, if I could get a copy of that, please.
So page 35 gives you a copy of the current ones?
Yeah, well, that lists what's proposed for the coming year. I'm interested, as I have always been, in a full listed plan, and when during those 10 years each item is scheduled for replacement. So page 35, I think, is only,
So we look
yes, this is only a 1-year schedule. I'm interested to see the 10-year schedule.
and through the chair, what I've indicated is that we're looking to change how that looks,
I
and the
understand
whole philosophy of plant may change.
that, and I understand that. Could I have a look at what we have at the moment? And the reason I ask,
Take it on notice.
the reason I keep asking for this, and this, I acknowledge it may change when you go into it in more detail, but I am still concerned that we may be getting behind in our plant replacement and allowing plant to deteriorate over time, not replacing plant at the optimum.
Councillor, I think that's an issue for the engineer to decide. And having a 1-year plan at the moment.
I do think it's a strategic issue for us to be satisfied that we are not getting behind in that.
And through the chair, what I'm proposing is if Morrison Lowe come in and do that strategic thing, council will sign off on it.
And bear in mind, you are speaking to the operational plan, which is a 1-year plan.
I think it's a reasonable request.
And I'll remind you, you are speaking to the operational plan.
Yes.
And that is that particular item which is there, but what the plan replacements will be in this period. If you wish to bring it up at a separate time about a strategic plan, fine, but we are talking about the operational plan. I'd ask you stick to the agenda item.
And I am, Mr. Mayor, because the operational plan says what plant will be replaced in 24-25 and how much that's going to, how much we have to put in to replace that plant. Mm-hmm. And I am concerned that it is insufficient to maintain our fleet in quality condition.
You may bring that up at a separate time.
My next question is that on page 35, it seems to me there is a discrepancy between the capital works list on page 26 and the plant replacement list on page 35. For example, the first 3 items on page 35, plant number 1 and 46 and 50, are not on the capital list on page 26. Even though the first 2 are listed for delivery in 24-25.
Through the chair, I think the delivery date is actually wrong. If you look at the schedule on the first page you mentioned, 146 and 50, we're actually starting to restrict them this year for a delivery in 25-26. I think that's a typo on those
On the delivery
first
date.
two on the delivery date, but if we look at the actual schedules, we're not actually spending the money as per the 24-25 spend. It is only those listed as the spend, which will be reflected in the capital work schedule, which is specific to the financial year 24-25. The others will then go into the plan.
I did notice those reservations in over 2 years, but I was tripped up by the delivery date.
Apologies.
Where does the money for plant replacements come from? Is it council sources or, and again, I've asked this before, does that money all come from what we build up from using our plant? So our internal rates, is that sufficient to cover all operations and maintenance and registration and replacement?
No.
So how much extra do we have to put in to cover replacements?
Through the chair, it depends on the program itself and what is replaced. Council, we utilise our own vehicle, therefore we need to put the money in to replace it. And when we're doing the external works, then we do get the money in to assist us in replacing it. I don't have the figures readily available to indicate what council is putting in at this stage.
And this is the strategic point I've made several times, is that we need to set our internal fire rates such that it covers all of those purposes, because otherwise we are subsidising projects that might be grant funded, that might be RMCC, and
That's
we're
up to the
subsidising
works
it.
department.
And through the chair, Councillor Tucker, I know we had that discussion, which I agree with the majority of that, is that I also, from a budget standpoint, we take the holistic picture of the priorities that we need to deliver. So if there are mechanisms that are not allowing those funds to adequately have the appropriate funds, we will move money into those funds to top up those types of things. So while there are defined mechanisms in the budget, we also do need to look at all the priorities and move money. So if plant replacement is sitting at a certain side, we will push money towards it, irrespective of internal higher rates that things have generated them. So that and all the other priorities, we do need to move money and resources around to match.
Yeah, I think I've made my point. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Hayden?
I'll make mine a bit briefer and try and keep to the 3 minutes. I just noticed here on page 30 of 150, I added up all the figures, that's $1 out in the figures. Zoe did turn around and say but one of the issues I have is that when the general public gets these documents and they add up the figures and they're added up wrong, that's when council will get picked at a fair bit. I also have a couple of questions here where it states here about the permissible income and the 5.2% rate peg. Now, we've put up an extra $141 onto the base rate. Is that going to be affected with the rate peg? So when through the chair to Zoe, can I ask that question?
Through the chair, the 5.2% will go on top of everybody's rate notices across the board. We work out the 5.2 and then it goes through into the ad valorem section to increase the rates, and the 143 also will be added into the base rate section.
So it's 143, not 141 now.
Correct.
Right, so 143, so the 5.2 is over the board.
Correct.
So the rates are actually going to be more than they would have been previously.
No, not overall.
Only 5.2%.
I get that overall.
Yeah.
That's what a rate peg does.
Yeah, I know it's overall, but I'm just saying it still increases an income generation for council overall because the rates are increased by 143. So then your 5.2 overall.
No, because that 143 comes from what used to be the TI level.
The 555.
So that's spread out. There is no overall increase in the rate across the LGA that is being charged. We cannot do that. That's what the rate peg does.
Equally, the year before, the rate peg would have been put across the two.
I understand the rate peg goes across the board, I understand that.
Yep.
I also understand that we had the TI component, but now it's broken down and it's 143 on each rateable assessment and the 5.2 over the board. That wouldn't that make us?
The same, we would, if we had not changed TI, we would still have the same number of dollars which would come in rates.
Okay, all right then, well, we'll leave
Exactly the
that.
same number.
Still blows my head up, but yeah, we'll leave that one. The other revenues, what are the other revenues that are anticipated when you state in other revenues, the pool and gym income?
Well, through the chair, the discussion having with councillor Tucker and before, yeah, we have pool and gym income, other employment initiatives and things that we get throughout the year.
Okay. Now, a question I have here, actual wages figure increased by 10%. That's much higher than the CPI of 4 point.
There's a note.
So through the chair, it's important to note the change in the accounting classification of the fitness centre and the pool to start this conversation. Last year, we engaged in Y to run a management contract, therefore the expenditure of the staff running that were included in the management and materials and services component of the operational plan. This year, as the management contract does not exist anymore, we have council staff operating those facilities. As such, we have them required to add their wages, which adds to the 10%. This year, the increase goes up 3.5%, plus every full-time employee who has been employed since I believe it's the 1st of July 2023 and is still in employment come the 1st of July 2024. The EB dictates that we provide them $1,000 and then prorated for part-timers. Casuals do not get that allowance. The super is also going up 11.5%. So the overall increase on wages is 10%, correct? However, it is made up of not just the EB, it's also made up of the reclassification.
What's EB?
I think it's supposed to be EA, Enterprise Agreement.
Okay, Andrew, I'm asking the questions at the minute.
Just a point of clarification.
Through the chair,
But-
it's the award provisions that are across local government
Right,
that have made this allocation. It's not something that staff have undertaken, so,
that
This
might
is-
need to be written out a bit more clear in that for the general public if we're going to put this on exhibition, because they'll be going, okay, so the CPI is this has gone up this, oh look, we're getting extra this because it's going up 10%. So that's how a perception could be seen by the general community.
so page 44 tries to highlight that if we need
Yeah,
to
I'm
do
still
that more.
going. I'm trying to get through this in the quickest amount of time. Expenses to the Central Tablelands Weed Authority, my personal opinion, don't give them anything, do it in-house ourselves. That's just my opinion. Receipt of grants in prior years, I needed an explanation to that. I'll ask for that in an email because that's going to be too in-depth. The note, as Councillor McKibben had mentioned as well, disposal of land. I thought we already had decided last year that we've got land that we're disposing of. Then there was transfers to reserves, the sewer water fund stuff. I'll do that in an email because that's too in-depth to answer in a brief amount of time. I do want financials correct though, like even $1 out, it doesn't look good to the general public. It should add up. If we sit there as councillors and add up every figure and get a different amount, it doesn't look good on the paper, so that's something I'm not happy with.
Noted that before, it's all right.
Yeah, sorry. We're still on the operational plan, aren't we? I'm not skipping somewhere I shouldn't be. The Indigenous garden at the Common, I don't think we had that listed through TI fund to be allocated through the TI fund. That was going to be through a separate grant. So I'm just wondering why this is listed down into that section.
Through the mayor, at the workshop, I was led to believe that
No,
we potentially
that's
needed
not-
a co-contribution.
No, that's not why I listed that, mentioned that though. So they're just little ideas. I didn't think they were going to be going down into here. We don't have enough time for this. This is just crazy.
Well, you've got 28 days.
Yeah, but we have to list our stuff in here. We have to bring up what we've got here before we put this on exhibition, because there's so much in here that we need to address.
Okay.
How does it make any sense if we put a submission in, we put something on public exhibition that we don't
A lot of
think
things that
is,
you've got that are personal.
they're not
Well,
personal.
no, you have made several of those, and those should be done in a submission.
They're not personal. If something doesn't add up with a calculator, that's not personal.
And we've noted that, and it's going to be fixed.
I just haven't finished. So when we have these general funds and the water funds, long-term financial plan,
What page, councillor?
41. So I did have some questions around internal income, external expenditure, how you get the figures, which is being added to which, so that we can work out how these figures come about as it is, because it doesn't make any sense to me at all. With the brackets and the red, and the positive brackets red, and the negative brackets black.
Through the chair, last year this was a comment. On the cover page, I manually changed everything to be positive to try and address this. In the long-term financial plan, I did not reflect that. Accounting systems work on debits and credits basis. Historically, the credits come through as a negative. Your income, when it goes up via a credit, which is a negative. So pulling from the system pulls our income through as a negative, and everything is debit and credit based. If the council would like me to adjust the LTFP to remove that, it is a minor alteration that I'm happy to do manually to put it back in if you want it in not as it is. It's not,
I didn't understand a single word you said then, sorry. When you've got a finance brain, this is easy to work out. And I'm publicly going to say it. I don't have any qualms in saying it. The general public out there have to read these documents. They have to understand these documents just as a lot of other people do. And some of us can't understand it. They can't understand it. I just want to see some clearer and easier explanations to how these are working. And I have a right to request that.
Right, we could do all sorts of things. Councillor?
That's all right, I'll leave that because it just, anyway.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, I'm just
Councillor McCarthy.
a bit concerned about our table of, we give the money away, that we've had two lots of late reports.
Sorry, you mean the
What Councillor Tucker highlighted, the
Donations.
donations?
donation policy, and I honestly think we've got to look at the cut-off point. We've had two late reports this year that I think takes a lot of staff up, and that's not reflected in the, what's saying? It's taken staff time up, and I think we've got to have a cut-out point and stick to the cut-out point. And if we haven't spent all the money, good luck to the council, because we've got to look for a, what do you call it, tower up there at the new sports ground. We've got a comms tower, and we've got to find some money for that, and to cut this other thing up might be an avenue of funding it. But I do agree with Councillor Tucker that at a certain time there's going to be a cut-off point with some of this stuff. We don't go there.
No late applications.
Yep.
Anyone else? No. Right, reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A number of the issues raised by Councillor Hayden are in the notes. Note 7 on page 31 deals with employee benefits. And although it's quite a confusing concept from an accounting perspective, when you're not doing as much capital works, you can't capitalise employee costs, and so they go into your normal operational employee costs, so they show up in that figure. And we talked about the change from capital to maintenance activities, so then they fall back in, whereas when they're capitalised, you can capitalise them as part of your capital sum, not as part of your employee costs. And also page 44 deals with them. I do understand the problem that obviously Councillor Hayden went with in relation to the red and the black and the negative and the positives that reflect, and if you look at page 30, obviously the red therefore there correct indicates negatives, whereas if you look at the actual details, if you were to look at the profit in the right hand page on page 30, you get negative 191,620 loss, and then if you look at page 39, and if a person in the public was looking at this, and you go down the first column and you get to the bottom 191,620 in black, you might be scratching your head. That's the confusion I think is occurring.
Through the Mayor, I'm happy to make that adjustment as an immaterial one that comes to the same, if you guys are happy with that.
And I agree with Councillor McCarthy. I think, and I'm not sure where the appropriate place is, but we should be putting in our documents somewhere, and it might be a note to the accounts, or it might be right up front, that basically financially the council has determined that after the cut-off date for section 356 allocations, there will be no new allocations accepted. If we put it stated in these documents, then we can always base our determination later and say it's been out there. We've stated in the document that's gone to you. It's been on public exhibition.
Who did that last?
So that's my comment.
Is there a right to reply? Okay. All right, I'll put the motion. It's item 2, the draft operational 24-25 operational plan. All those in favour? All right, all those, everyone except for, you did have your hand up, all right, that's unanimous. Item 3. Moving and seconded for item 3. Draft statement of revenue policy. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Tucker. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy for this revenue policy to go on public exhibition. Again, I just mentioned that if there are going to be any changes to the waste charges, which we talked about, such as I think it was tyres and mattresses, that we need to put that right up front. And we also should flag that there may be changes as a result of the weighbridge coming up, and make that really up front.
So through the chair, we've indicated that any charge above 10% on the last year's, we will highlight as an item in its own right, and acknowledge those.
And also
those things
talk about the weighbridge and the
moving to a tonnage rate,
yes.
and our givens as part of the waste fund.
On that basis, Mayor, I'm happy.
Councillor Tucker.
I'm going to recommend that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My only comment also relates to waste, and I'm looking at page 25. So under waste expenditure, it says that included in the budget at the moment is 4 free tip vouchers, 1 free tip day, transfer station running costs, and then it notes that the previous bulky goods service has not been provided for, because obviously that has come out of the TI fund, which no longer exists. But I just wonder if there is any interest in continuing a bulky goods service funded from the waste management collection charge. So at the moment there's a $2.40 litre bin weekly collection service at $256.50 per bin per annum. I reckon probably less than an extra $20 onto that if we wanted to have a bulky goods service operating over the same area that we currently have the 240 litre bin collection. And just, I'm interested from other councillors whether we want to keep that bulky goods service going.
Yes,
I think that's probably another time to look at that. That's we've got rid of the bulky goods here, and instituting in a different way is possibly worthwhile considering, but let's not do it here, let's do it at another time.
I agree, it's probably a separate discussion, but as we've agreed, we need to keep things a little bit simple at the moment with all the changes that occurred last year and didn't really practically work. So I agree, separate discussion.
Through the chair, you also might get members of the public writing and saying, hey, we want the bulky goods, and you can consider including it as part of that process during June. So submissions are going to dictate how that works.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said you give me you give some level of where that starts and stops, because the issue of I've got a bulky goods out at Arkstone, come and pick them up.
No, and I've never suggested that.
No,
I just would have thought if we wanted to fund it by that manner, this would be the ideal time, rather than having a year or two without a collection and then trying to bring it back in. I would have thought it was, if we want to do it, now would be a good time to do it.
Through the chair, council indicated at its workshop they wanted to put this out without the bulky waste. I'm sure submissions would dictate whether you want to re-include it
but we
or
didn't vote
include
on
it somewhere.
that.
No, but it was just the rationale behind not having it is because we don't now have a boundary in which we can put it in.
Or a TI fund to fund it.
Or a TI fund to fund it. If you want to do it in a different way, I dare say that that's something that you'll need to discuss prior to implementing that, whether that's in June or not, on the back of a number of submissions, or if council want to resolve to include it now and add $20 to each of that, they're quite within their right to do so. I don't want to stifle that ability for council to say, no, we want to continue to have bulky goods pick up, and this is how we're going to fund it.
Unlikely that people will comment on that, because that removal of that service isn't in the document that's going on public exhibition, it's only in the report.
Through the chair, through our comms and our processes, we will absolutely include that it's not part of this, or if council want to see it included, we'll include it and say, as such, there's an additional cost on that in the waste fund.
That was all,
That's fine, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hayden?
Yeah, I also was reading this under the waste expenditure. I know at the workshop we did mention the 4 free tip vouchers, but it was also mentioned that day as well to eventually phase out the tip vouchers and just have 4 free tip days instead. But that's not listed in here. 1 free tip day. I mean, we've got so many people getting charges. We've reduced the amount of the 356, yet we've got charges going to people in rural communities of another $143. And it just seems very unfair that they're not getting some value for money in those regards. And also with the annual charges where we got stung last year, I was just looking through this and trying to work out how some of the figures came about, but when there are figures in here of uranium disposal, so that's a formaldehyde disposal, which that's also spelt wrong, it's not formaldehyde, it's formaldehyde, $2.10 a kilo. I mean, that should be like $210 a kilo, not $2.10. And then where you've got herbicides and defoliants at $954 a kilo. So we've got $2.10 from formaldehyde, we've got 127, organochlorines, which is organochlorines, it needs an L in there, at 954. Like, we've got some of these charges which are correct because they're a toxic substance, but yet uranium is not listed, it's $9.70. Everyone in Australia might come and dump uranium at our tip, $9.70 a kilo. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We've got to look at these charges and look at them thoroughly, because $9.70 per kilo to dump uranium at our tip.
Councillor, are you looking at the liquid trade waste or?
It's on page 127.
I believe that's how liquid trade
That's,
waste that wouldn't be going to.
Liquid trade waste?
Excess mass charges per kilogram. Liquid trade waste, yes.
Yeah.
Food waste disposal, it's after that, it's excess mass.
It's
So-
liquid trade waste that wouldn't be going to the waste transfer station.
It doesn't matter, it's still coming to Oberon, regardless of what it is, it's being disposed of in Oberon, these are our charges, so I just am not happy with that. Same as bulk timber waste, a metre cube, $50 a metre cube, but yet we're going to have a weighbridge, shouldn't we all be having all that as weighbridge costs?
Sorry?
Shouldn't these metres cube be all under weighbridge fees now that we're going to have a weighbridge?
Through the chair, you'll note that at the start of the Oberon rubbish tip and charges in that grouping, you'll see weighbridge, mixed waste,
Yep,
commercial
seen that.
tonnes.
Yep,
So
that's all here.
so we are looking at bringing in the tonnage costs. We were looking at capping it so that those who were on the old meters squared didn't get burdened by the change to the weighbridge. Once we are able to obtain significant data as to what's going over the weighbridge, it is anticipated that there is going to be another process to reassess the fees at that point. Until the weighbridge is in and we can start collecting the data as to what's coming through, we have set an amount with the cap as per the meter cube.
You're right, because down here you've got trucks, $22 a metre cube, box trailer, $16 each. So the truck doesn't say what size truck or anything like that. Box trailer commercial waste, half cage metre cube at 38, and then there was another one down here, box trailer full cage, 32. What size box trailer?
This was discussed at the workshop, Mr Chairman.
No, it wasn't.
It was, we discussed a different
The
box.
size of the box trailer. 6x4, whatever, okay. I just, they really do need to be looked at. We don't have the fees done right in the liquid waste or any of those. And I'm looking at it, scrutinising it, because we didn't last year. So is that right, like uranium and
Well,
those
the chances
items?
of someone trying to dispose of the uranium into our tip is about zero, because it's a very highly controlled substance.
Well, why have we got it listed?
Good question, it was probably taken off a state government list, I suspect.
It might also
So-
be what goes through the sewer.
Yeah, it's liquid trade waste.
So if
It's a
someone has
component of
liquid
liquid trade waste, it's
agreement,
not an individual component.
but they would have to provide analysis of what's in their trade
That's too
waste.
wide.
And that would be where that comes in.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. You got anything else? Councillor Trembath?
Just through the Mayor, if we're going to be collecting data on the weighbridge, can we probably, just as we're going to highlight the bulky waste, maybe we should make sure that we talk about that separately as well, so people understand that it's an ongoing operation, understanding how much these costs are going to be.
So through the chair, that is exactly what we're proposing to do as part of our conversation with our community. What I would say, and as Zoe's rightly highlighted, what we've indicated is that we are getting a weighbridge, and a move towards a tonnage rate is something that we're going to have to move towards. However, in the first instance, if you go across and it's 2 tonne, which otherwise would have cost you $60, but under the square metre rate or the box trailer, it's $3.50, we will charge you $3.50, not $60 and that's what we're trying to educate our community as we move forward without the shock of a huge increase. So those sort of things are front and centre. As part of delivering on our free tip vouchers, we're moving away from a monetary value again and getting it towards something that people can tangibly put in place. So keeping those as we possibly can, but we're going to exclude the likes of the mattresses, the tyres and the lounges, which we found is very costly when we have to get rid of them. And they're very bulky and they have all the negative attributes that we don't want in a landfill. But that's the first part in having a conversation with our community moving forward.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor McCarthy?
Mr Mayor, at the workshop, and still go on board, we have two suppliers going to the tip with bulky waste in the truck. They both come out over Weybridge. We haven't got our Weybridge yet, but we anticipate we're going to have it before the end of June. But we should be able to do that comparison so there's no shock. In other words, we asked Timber Industries and we asked Borg and do the comparison. So we know we're not going to miss out on a heap of revenue or goes the other way. And it's not it's just a request. But we should have that in our report, I'm sorry, but David was asked that at the workshop.
Why haven't we got the Weybridge? I thought that was meant to be in the end of February, then changed to the end of April. Why is it now the end of June?
Through the chair, probably a different conversation, but
Sorry, but
I said end of June because I know it's not there and you know, let's face it, we're only
yeah,
doing soil tests last
it
week.
was going to be, it was going to be February, then we were told it will definitely be in there the end of April.
through the chair, the issues around how we put that in the ground are ones that we're working through at this point in time. So our geotech has come back where they originally wanted is probably not a good place, and we're looking at a better place.
And how
And
long
that's
will
because
that
the
take?
soil stability.
That's the soil stability, yeah, stability. And one was it was on fill, so. So when you do that, and you need to re-look at, and Cornelia is looking at that now, as to where best fit the weighbridge so as we don't compromise what we're
They
doing.
come in their main gate, don't they?
Yeah.
Put the Weybridge in the main gate area.
Through the chair,
geotech.
then you have to also,
Peer it.
or you have to do all that, but from our perspective, people have to man it. So we've got a manned area,
Move
we've
them
Chris
down.
spent quite a deal of money trying to set up our workforce in a facility that's not 50 years old, and trying to utilise those as part of our ongoing ops.
All right, is there anyone else? Rather reply, councillor?
I'm fine. The only comment I've made is that maybe at the next meeting, the general manager could just give us an update on where we are with the Weybridge and Formula. Apart from that, I'm happy.
Okay, I'll put the motion for item 3. All those in favour? It's unanimous,
No, it's not.
wasn't it?
I'm
sorry.
voting against it because David didn't do it at the workshop what he was asked.
Okay, councillor McCarthy voted against.
Thank you.
Councillor. I'm sorry, I
No.
missed your.
I don't mind, I'm still watching Farmers as a wife.
Okay. Now, as I indicated earlier, people still happy, we'll take items 4, 5 and 6 as one item. Now, can I move and a second for 4, 5 and 6, please? Councillor McKibben? Councillor Tucker? At least it's a nice uniform set of scrolls down the side of my document. Yes.
Well, it's usually Hayden and McKibben, so
Councillor McKibben?
I'm happy with recommendations 4, 5 and 6. I'm happy for the ongoing support of the reseal program in lieu of 1 or 2 kilometres, but I really, I think there's also a large section of the community that are expecting us to follow the priority roads matrix to at least getting these roads sealed, so I think we seriously have to contemplate what we do next year. because there have been some comments to me, oh, why aren't you pursuing the road metrics for sealing these roads? And we've talked about it and explained, and they said, oh, we thought that was only 1 year. We said, well, we decided to do it again because we're falling behind. So I do think the next council would have to seriously look at it again next year. The proposed communications and consultation strategy, but we talked about made some comments today on those things we need to emphasise. So I think that that policy must take account of those comments that we've made today by councillors generally around the table. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also a couple of quick comments. The first is on item 4 about the reseal program, and just following on from Councillor McKibben. So that recommendation and this motion is as a result of having a resolution on the books that says we're going to do 1 to 2 Ks each year. What I'd like to see is removing that resolution, so simply so that we don't have to pass that motion each year, but without setting in stone that we're going to have a reseal program, just leave it open to each future council as to what it's going to do with its money, whether it's going to have reseals or 1 to 2 Ks of sealed roads or something else. So the question is, are we able to simply pass a motion to say that we're not going to have that previous resolution, or would it need a formal rescission motion?
Through the chair, the simple answer is, if you have a look at page 75 of your document, it forms one of the themes and actions in your strategic plans that you indicated. The reason why we bring it back to you each year is because it goes directly against one of those themes and actions within your community strategic plan and your delivery program. As I've said, we're looking to go through a complete review of these 2 documents into the new council. A requirement under a new council is within 6 months you need to do that. So that's when I think that these types of things will be considered. That's the reason why we bring it back to council each year. It is not because it's a standing resolution of council, it is a standard action within your council strategic plans.
Okay, thank you. And my other question relates to recommendation number 5 about the communications and consultation strategy. I noticed that there's meetings proposed in Oberon and Black Springs, but nothing this year to happen in Oberon, is that correct?
Through the chair, the comms plan aims to piggyback on the community meetings that are happening in those locations, which would be proposing council
association.
That's right, those existing association meetings. We would also propose same format for those that may be a bit more of an altar and the like, but not a formal meeting. We would do that via array of digital and other means, but there may be other special interest groups that delegates or councillors may wish to.
So in the last couple of years, there's been a couple of meetings in Oberon that we're not proposing to have those, and I'm not complaining about that because so few people attend them.
That's right.
But if there's to be a presentation at the associations in Oregon and Black Springs, could we do what we've done in the past and record one of them and have it available on our website?
Yes, through the chair, it is our absolute intent to do a presentation online.
Okay.
As part of the town improvement comms strategy that we worked, we'll be looking at preparing a number of like short PowerPoints to give to councils when they go, and they can do that. They can do that same type of presentation and have a flow sheet that they can work to, but it's not in terms of having that face-to-face engagement, come and have a yarn to us and we talk to each other because there's 2 people in the room.
And that's fine.
We're proposing not to do that.
I wasn't asking for it face-to-face, but some easy way for people in town to see a presentation.
Yep. The other thing is, as the document presents, is that your community survey basically said there's 2 ways that our community want to be communicated with. One is by digital means, through that social media big bombarding in content. The other one's through letterbox drops. So we're proposing to do that, put together a snapshot of what these things are, that it's exactly in line with what comments you made, and delivering that to our whole region as well.
That's all, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hayden?
Yeah, I was thinking along the lines of the proposed communications. If there's going to be a letterbox drop, I'll be happy with that. I would like to see Oberon do one because Burriga gets 4 people and Black Springs might be lucky to get 6. So, you know, unless it's going to be shoved out there and advertised really heavily, it's going to struggle again.
My recollection of the community consultations last year was that on every single occasion, councillors outnumbered those, the people who came on the list. And when we had staff, we outnumbered them 2 to 1. That's not good use of anyone's time.
But it's just, yeah, I don't know. But we just need to get it out there broader. There's a lot of people that aren't on social media. A lot of the older people, they're not on anything. They don't even have email, don't even have a mobile. So if there's a what?
They have a letterbox.
A letterbox. I'm happy to hear the letterbox side of it, and then a big spread in the paper or something
Just
similar.
a question, how do we deal with those postcodes that are not 2787? Because that's proved to be a real problem.
We've got 4.
Through the chair, we understand the concerns that are raised in that regard, and we may have to bring someone in to in fact do that, like delivery process a little bit different than what the post office would otherwise do. So
Or that person.
we want to be able to provide documentation to our community as far and wide as we possibly can. If that then means that we have to go and do it, because as part of the TI presentation, staff went out and delivered
Well, as you
letterbox
know,
drops.
Mr General Manager, you've got Councillor Trembeth who delivers to O'Connell, and I deliver to Mount David and Burriga, so
Well, that's wonderful. That is really good.
it's not, it shouldn't have
It
to
shouldn't
happen.
happen, but it's great that you do it.
Through the chair, those things aren't lost on us, but we also want to make it as easy as we possibly can for people to get that information.
And also around the reseals, are we able to down the track kind of split it up a little bit, because we've got a couple of those roads that are almost towards completion, and if we can get those finished in the next year or two, it would be beneficial.
Through the chair, are you talking about a
The
sealing program?
Sealing like Sewell Creek and the other Mozart and a
Priority-
couple of
priority
other
roads.
little ones that are nearly done.
So through the chair, I wanna make it clear, staff have put this option together on the basis of understanding the need for a resale program. We acknowledge that as part of a recommendation in this regard, because we understand the advantages that we took from that last year. It's up to council on whether they want to do this or not. It's just, this is the proposed document as it is.
And so as it stands, that we've got all these other ratepayers that are paying into the new $143 a year. I noticed when I read through here, we don't have anything designated to Burriga or Mount David or Black Springs, or not listed as such. But how are they going to get their,
I think, hang on.
So through the chair, council has, as part of its draft document, allocated the entirety of that money that we've collected to roads.
Yeah.
The reason we've done that is because our community survey has said to us, do more with roads. So council staff have purely put it in roads.
that's okay,
It'll
I
be
was
up to
just trying
councils.
to get this out there, that these other areas are now paying the 143 extra rateable assessment each. Are they going to get a benefit from this, not just Dog Rocks Road or not just some other road, but the roads within the villages, like the road in Burriga? And I'm allowed to ask the question, even though it may be stressing the mayor.
I'm not.
It is a question that is pertinent to those residents in those villages. Are they going to get their road resealed from the shop up to the sports ground or wherever in their areas as well. Not just allocating money that they're paying through their rateable assessments extra, going to someone else's road in some other area. That's what I'm trying to ask.
The allocation of funds for both urban and rural have increased as a result of this change that we've made. We haven't gone down at this point in time into road level, because what we would normally do is look at our condition rating in our asset management plans, and that would dictate where we would spend that money.
Will we have some matrix going forward after the financial year that will be listing and prioritising where these will be done?
We're developing the roads program as we speak.
Because I just want to see some fairness and equity for those people that are now paying that extra fee as well.
So through the chair, what staff have outlined is that that's where we have put the additional allocation of funds, because under the community, under our community survey, that's where our community have indicated that they want to see additional funds spent.
The 203 people that were surveyed.
The community was.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm just asking, because I just want to make it.
It's clear, I understand. So if councillors wanted to make specific requests for individual projects for any area, I'm not just saying borough, any area, what we would say is that allocation that we've included additional on the roads budget would need to come off that roads budget. Is that clear?
Right, so all the extra 143 of every rateable assessment is now all targeted towards a road budget, not to any other projects in any specific areas where anybody lives that's paying into it. It's just all going to roads.
At this point, yes.
Right.
So that's how we've developed the program. We've also outlined in the document that there are a number of discretionary projects that councillors had indicated. Free waste at Burriga and Black Springs.
They were just ideas though, they weren't things that come into fruition.
No, but they will be things that you as a council will need to determine as we move forward, because all we're saying.
So we would then have to move money from that roads funding. This is why, at the time, as you know, I didn't agree with that and asked for a deferral, because we didn't have that planned out well enough.
Yeah. So
anyway.
We have indicated that there is a large spend in roads, and we've just moved that money into that additional road spend. Councillor Tucker's highlighted, it's great to see additional roads money getting close to the. We put it there because that's what our community survey indicated.
That's okay, but I want to see it just broadened where these roads are going to be.
If that's what council resolved to do, we will look at that roads plan as part of our ongoing processes. But all I want to get at is that there are still all those priorities that you guys have earmarked as things that you want us to consider. All I'm saying is that if they were to get funded, that's where the money, or the additional money that we have provided as part of the $143 has gone to.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing it. It was just like we had this conversation before that part of this $143, hey, we could give extra in under 356 or whatever, but that's got cut. So, you know, that's fine. I'm ending my questions there, but that I want to see these people in these other areas that are paying the extra 143 getting some kind of benefit as well.
I'd hope as part of submissions that would come through.
You got a right to reply?
No, hang on.
Oh, you had your hand up, all right, Councillor McCarthy?
Yeah, I just couldn't hold it up that long.
Sorry.
Anyway, I think we should be voting on number 4 separately. I still endorse that we do the 1 to 2 kilometres, because in that program that we're going to do ones like the Dog Rocks Road, resheet that seal that we only done once, and that's called a reseal. And there's a large amount of money to be spent there. Just to do a 1 to 2 kilometre reseal, I see on Lowe's Mount Road, it's already marked for reseal out there. So what I'm getting at is, I think we've still got to add that other plan in there.
Okay, you've had 3 opportunities to bring this up. When I initially said I was going to do 4, 5 and 6 as a group.
Okay, yeah.
And then when I called for moving a seconder, so
Yeah.
I think I
All right,
understand
no,
what you're saying.
I'll stick with what 4, 5 and 6 said.
Through the chair, can I just clarify? What number 4 indicates is we undertake a resewer program in lieu of the 1 to 2 kilometres of additional sewer that we do each year.
And I agree with that, but in your money that's been provided and the guidelines where you've got to do the edges and things like that, you would do the reshoot of the whole road. So once you patch the edges up, you would do the whole road. So that's a reseal. So you're gonna really be doing 1 to 2 kilometres. That large amount of money that we got, and we spoke about down at this workshop the other day, that would be classed as reseal. So you're gonna do more than 1 to 2 kilometres a year.
Yeah.
And you're taking this other one away from the ratepayers.
Through the chair, I may not have. The 1 to 2 kilometres of seal is new seal that council has previously endorsed. There was an allocation of money that we put aside in order to do that as part of any operational plan. Last year, council indicated that instead of doing that 1 to 2 kilometres, they will transition that to do a reseal program. Not 1 to 2 kilometres of reseal, a reseal program. The 1 to 2 kilometres is purely, as it sits in our strategic documents, to do new seal on previously unsealed road.
I understand that, but this, I don't sit with what Councillor Hayden's saying, this $140 is a one-off levy on those people. What was happening before is things like the library and that was subsidised by the Town Improvement Fund. So someone out there has been hounding me at Chatham Valley, he's now got to pay for other things in the community. Last year, he didn't have to.
Well,
Anyway,
I go
that's
back
my
to
right reply.
2015 as well, councillors, where we had a special rates variation, which was paid by everyone in the community, and it was only spent on 3 key rural roads, and that's still the case. Now, you don't, it is fundamentally unfair to have people paying exorbitant fees over and above what other people do. Now, there is always going to be exceptions, there is always going to be someone saying, yeah, look, but if you have complex rates and you have complex ways of levying rates, you will have more dissent. I think we've come up with something that is simple and to the point. I had a lady the other day on the phone, and to me, saying, you know, I can't pay that money. And I said, well, you know, I know she can. And I said, do you go into town? Yeah, do you go to the library? Oh yeah, I'm there all the time. Oh, in fact, I do all these meetings in there. I thought, well, you know.
But they're still entitled to their opinions.
Absolutely, they're entitled to their opinions. But I think that we resolved as a council to do that.
Well, we didn't all resolve to do that.
No, when the council passes a resolution, it is owned by all of us.
Well, it's not. Those that voted against, it's not owned by.
Majority rules.
Okay, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's appropriate that we do the reseal program this year, but as I indicated initially, I think that we should, the council next year should seriously consider continuing the 1 to 2 kilometres as per our priority road matrix. I think we seriously have to do that once, because otherwise we will lose some confidence from our constituents. I would also refer Councillor Hayden and others to page 32, which sets out the discussions that occurred in relation to how the TI for future should be or may be spent, with a whole list of bullet points there at the bottom. And it also looks above it at the options for the TI fund that currently exists, and where that unspent money could be spent, just for clarification purposes. To make it clear that, yes, the future one for 24-25, and we call it the TI fund, but that fund that raised 143 from each ratepayer goes into that fund, has been allocated to roads, but there was discussion, and the paper notes the number of the selections, or the number of those items that were listed as potential for spending that money. On that basis, I'm more than happy to move these recommendations 4, 5 and 6, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All right. Councillor McCarthy, are you for or against?
Against.
Councillor Hayden and McCarthy against. The rest for. So the motion is passed. Alright, in accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993, the Local Government General Regulations of 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is of a kind as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with in the part of the meeting closed to the media and the public. There are no public or media here. We'll move into confidential. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, all in favour? All right, please stop recording and, all right. Time is 5:56 PM. We have come out of closed session. During the closed session, there were 3 resolutions passed. Item 6.1, 24 and 25, section 356 financial assistance. And the recommendation that was passed was that council approve an overall allocation of $80,000 in the draft 24-25 financial year operation plan to fund the section 356 financial assistance program. Place the successful 356 applicants list on a public exhibition for 28 days, and there be no further late applications accepted after the 1st of July 2024 unless accompanied by substantiating evidence of compliance with Council's hardship policy. Next item is item 6.2, section 356 late funding request. The recommendation that was passed with Council support the recommendation contained within the report. Item 6.3, industrial subdivision stage 2. The recommendation is that Council proceed with the recommendation outlined within the report. There is no further business to be conducted this evening, and I will close the meeting now at 5:58 PM. Thank you, councillors, for all your work today.